When you first think of the word mummy, you probably think of the costume you may have worn during Halloween as a kid. However, there's a long history to where the mummy has originated. The ancient Egyptians believed that when a person died, they made a journey to the next world. In order to make it to this next world, their body had to be preserved. A preserved body is called a mummy. In order to better understand what mummies are and why they have originated, we must first look back on the history of mummies, observe the steps of mummification, and finally analyze how mummies are viewed in our modern culture. According to Joshua Mark in 2017, mummification began around 3500 BC in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians were trying to find different solutions to prevent decaying bodies. After years of trial and error, mummification ended up being perfect because it preserved the bodies well enough for the afterlife. Although that is the first real case of mummification, the Chinchorro people of Chile, 2,000 years prior, came up with their own type of mummification, but it was much more brutal than the Egyptians. It involved the dismemberment of each limb before processing and reassembling the body with straw, plant fibers, and stick, covering and molding the body then with mud. Since then, mummification has been greatly adapted. The Egyptians practiced mummification for nearly 2,000 years, leading into the Roman period. Mummification eventually became less expensive. More people could afford it, and it was no longer limited to just royalty, although it was still not common for your common people to be mummified. It was also no longer limited to humans. According to an article written by Sarah Pruitt in 2015, animals became mummified for various reasons. Pets were mummified and buried along their owners, as well as were mummified for food offerings to humans in the afterlife. If you may not have known much about mummification prior, you are sure to have known at least one famous mummy. The three famous mummies are Vladimir Lenin, Ginger, and King Tut. Vladimir Lenin is a Russian revolutionist who died in January 1924 after suffering from multiple strokes. His body was embalmed and is now on display at the Lenin Mausoleum in Moscow. Ginger is a nickname given to the earliest known Egyptian mummified body. Ginger died over 5,000 years ago, yet still has perfectly preserved golden hair, toes, and even fingernails. Although it is unsure whether this was an intentional mummification or not, it is sure one of the most famous and well done. Ginger is now on display at the British Museum. King Tut was a 9-year-old pharaoh in 1332 BC and reigned for around 10 years until his death. He was discovered in 1922 with his body almost completely intact. This discovery revealed a lot of information about his life and his times, which we previously knew little about. Although pictures and connotations make mummification seem easy, it really takes around 70 days. Anthony Esselin, 2013, states that the process begins with the body being washed. A cut was then made on the left side of the body, and the organs were removed, except the heart, which was considered the center of emotion and intelligence, was left in the body for use in the next life. A hooked instrument was then used to remove the brain through the nose and was thrown away because it wasn't considered important. The body and internal organs were then packed with natron salt for 40 days to remove any remaining moisture. The dried organs were then wrapped in linen and placed in jars. The body was cleaned and then rubbed with oil. Then the body was packed with sawdust and rags, and open cuts were sealed with wax. The body was wrapped with linen bandages. About 20 layers were used, which took around 15 to 20 days. The body was then placed in a shroud, which is a large sheet of cloth, and secured with linen straps. Finally, the body was placed in a decorated mummy case or a coffin. Mummies are a key decoration and costume idea at Halloween. Every year, there are kids dressed up for it to go trick-or-treating. So why are mummies considered a terrifying Halloween costume? Connotations in movies, such as The Mummy and Scooby-Doo, have the mummies being awakened and portrayed as a bad guy and villain. Also considered bad in video games, such as Sphinx, The Curse of the Mummy, and the Mummy video game, as well as many others. During our time today, we uncovered facts about mummies, as well as learned that mummies have impacted our culture today, whether we previously realized it or not. Now you know the history of mummies, the steps of mummification, and finally, how they are viewed in our modern culture. Next time you see a mummy, you can unwrap the secrets behind them and appreciate the history within them.